Hey there everyone, it's GG's Sober Son. January 16th. The AA program is more of a way of building a new life than just a way of getting over drinking. Because in AA, we don't just stop drinking. We did that plenty of times in the old days when we went on the wagon. And of course, we always started to drink again. Because we were only waiting for the time when we could fall off. Once we've gotten sober through the AA program, we start going uphill. In our drinking days, we were going downhill, getting worse and worse. We either go down or up. Am I going uphill, getting better and better? Ooh, this speaks directly to the aim up, chin up, aim up thing, right? We come into AA with our chins dragging on the floor, feeling miserable about ourselves or about something we've done, and we enter AA and we find out we're not the only ones who experience this powerlessness, this chase after that sense of ease and comfort that comes after taking a few drinks, thinking that we can whoa up, whoa, after that and not consume way more than we ever intended. Right? But that is the phenomenon of craving. That is unlike any other experience. I mean, like non-alcoholics don't experience that phenomenon of craving. They have a few drinks and they get a little dizzy or a little tipsy and they're like, no, I'm good, I'm buzzing, or whatever, you know, and I couldn't understand that. My ex-wife's father was a very upper crust British man, and he used to drink shandies and things like that. A shandy is like a pint of half beer and half like 7-Up. And I was trying to get him to drink more. Oh, come on, have another one. No, he would say. And I just didn't understand that, and I don't think I ever saw him drunk in all the years that we lived there, and anyway. So the phenomenon of craving is what differentiates us from other people. And yes, we don't just stop drinking. And I've shared this sort of concept before, that we aim up. We are filling our lives with other things. I remember thinking when I first got sober, it's like, what am I going to do with myself if I'm not drinking, if I'm not hanging out and getting drunk? And it wasn't long after I got sober and started coming to AA when I realized, when did I ever have the time to drink? My life is so full now. It's crazy how full my life is. It's like, when did I ever have time to drink? And going on the wagon, as they say, of just stopping drinking. For an alcoholic, it's untreated alcoholism. And we become restless, irritable, and discontent, as it says in the doctor's opinion in the foreword of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We become restless, irritable, and discontent until we can again experience that sense of ease and comfort that comes after taking a few drinks. A few drinks that we see others taking with impunity. But when the phenomenon of craving develops, we go through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to do it again. But invariably, we do it again and again and again and again until our problems mount up and they become astonishingly difficult to solve. And I'm paraphrasing, of course, but that's pretty much what it says. But for an alcoholic who chooses to come and treat their alcoholism, even though they're not drinking, because it's not just about the phenomenon of craving, it's the obsession of the mind that comes about, right? We get into black and white thinking. We get so frustrated with our circumstances. Our problems mount up, and we feel like, oh, I need to calm my shattered nerves. If you had my job, you'd drink too. If you had my wife, you'd drink too. If you had my life, you'd drink too. And we rationalize and justify that first drink. But then that starts the terrible cycle again. It's more than just not drinking. I saw my dad do it all my life. And I thought to myself, if that's what sobriety is about, I don't want it. But when I came to AA, thank God, when I finally came to AA for keeps, I saw people who were laughing and enjoying life. And I thought, this is what I'm talking about. I know my circumstances. I know my, I know that I'm an alcoholic. I'm powerless over alcohol and my life is unmanageable. But have you a solution? A sufficient solution, as it says in the big book? Yes. There you will, in the rooms, the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, there you will find camaraderie and a fellowship that is indescribably wonderful. And if you look for that and you look for the similarities, if we look for the similarities, because even though it's been years since my last drink, I can go into a meeting not looking for the similarities, depending on my mood. And it ruins a meeting for me. So if we look for the similarities rather than the differences, we'll see it. And it will be humbling. And it will be indescribably wonderful. Meditation for the day. I will try to obey God's will day in and day out in the wilderness plains as well as on the mountaintops of experience. It is in the daily strivings that perseverance counts. I believe that God is Lord of little things, the divine controller of little happenings. I will persevere in this new way of life. I know that nothing in this day is too small to be of God's scheme. And yeah, we, oddly enough, at my men's spiritual fellowship breakfast that we went to today, we read something out of the really big book that talked about divine appointments and how this guy was blind from birth and Jesus healed him, and all the religious people were like, "Mer, he did it on the Sabbath, so it can't be of God." and the guy was just like, "Hey, I was blind and now I see. I don't know what I don't know what you want from me," because they like interrogated him. And so the takeaway really was, look for those divine appointments. Try to be mindful of those opportunities when we stand in judgment of other people, when God is trying to give us a message right in front of us, and be ready and willing to even stop our schedule, pause our schedule in order to tend to these divine appointments and allow it to transform us. Because that happens in AA all the time. It happens all the time, and we can get complacent about it. Or we can get so used to ignoring it that we don't see it anymore. And that's the saddest part, because they talk about, just like I shared earlier, it's indescribably wonderful, a fellowship that is indescribably wonderful, and when people are willing to share their hardships, their trials, and things like that. And just like after the meeting this morning, because I went from the men's fellowship breakfast to catch the end of my home group meeting, and a guy was just like, "Oh man, my sponsor left already." And I was like, "Oh, you're gonna?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm just having problems with the fourth step. I'm kind of stalling out." And I wanted to talk to him about it. And so we had a conversation about the fourth step. And he was like, "Oh man," at the end, he was like, "Oh man, I'm really glad I mentioned it." And I was like, "Yeah, I am too, because that'll give me an opportunity to push through some stuff of my own that I'm getting stalled out on," because we talked about like routines and habits that we're getting stuck on. And again, this morning, the topic of atomic habits came up, the book Atomic Habits, and how small little 1% changes for the better can end our trajectory in a much better, higher place. So it comes back to aiming up. Prayer for the day. I pray that the little stones that I put into the mosaic of my life may make a worthwhile pattern. I pray that I may persevere and so find harmony and beauty. Again, it goes back to the little stones, right? The little stones, the 1% incremental changes, 1% better, being willing to be vulnerable, stopping and taking time to tend to these little divine appointments as we continue to aim up. In the divine appointments, tending to the divine appointments is part of aiming up. It's being willing to listen to the guidance of the spirit of the universe, if you choose to call it that. But I call it the Holy Spirit, and he's the creator of the universe. So conforming our will to God's will is the proper use of our will. And sometimes God stops out of the normal routine of the day. Now, I've heard anecdotal stories about people who were like, "Okay, God, show me." Actually, I read a book called You Were Born for This, and I can't remember the name of the guy who wrote it, but he was saying that, if we say, "Ooh, here I am, God, use me. I'm fully available for you to use right now." And God will actually guide you to be of service to someone. And it can be pretty freaky sometimes how God works it out, because it is so far outside of the norm that it's unnerving, really. So one day I was driving home, and I may have shared this story before on here, but it's worth repeating. I was driving home from work. I was still in the military, And I pulled out on the main thoroughfare that led to my town. And it's, 2 lanes going each way. Traffic is pretty heavy. And it's midsummer. I don't even remember what month it was, but it was midsummer. It was like 98 degrees outside, and the humidity was very, very high. And I was like, okay, God, use me. I'm ready for you to use me. And as soon as I said that, I saw this guy walking on the side of the road. And I was like, oh, that was fast. So I pulled over, and the guy gets in, and he's walking because he had a DUI and lost his license. Oh, so he jumps in the car all sweaty and everything, and I aim all the AC vents at him, and I crank it full on, And he was just going to the grocery store, and where I was in the town where I was living, I dropped him off, and I was like, hey, hang on a sec, man. And I handed him a schedule of meetings in the local area. I said, hey, if you ever want to go, let me know. And that was it. I don't think I've ever seen the guy again, but that was what I believe God was telling me. Yeah, it's true. If you're seeking a divine appointment, you will get one if you are willing and ready and willing. So keep coming back. Chin up, aim up. God'll rise you up, if that's a statement. But love y'all.